So glad to take questions and yeah, sure.
Hi. How important do you think it is to get an airline that will better service the European market?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of challenges on us from a service perspective with BA. We've also had obviously rate challenges because they have a monopoly into the Bermuda market. We would like to see another carrier come out of Europe. Come out of Heathrow in particular. We think that would be very helpful to us to connect to other lines. It is a top priority of government and of the ministry, and we're being supportive of the Airport Authority and the minister from a data perspective and from just being an advocate for the additional service. We also believe that because of America's Cup, we're on some radar scopes that we haven't been on in the past, and so we're going to continue to pursue that. From an airlift perspective, just to add, the top priority still is continental United States, still in Canada. We have to keep planes flying this winter, and this government the Bermuda government is making an effort to do that, and BTA is being supportive of that effort.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
Just on this airline, you said that the airlift is a big agenda item. Just so people understand, walk us through what efforts are being made to raise the bar when it comes to the airlines.
Yeah, so there are, we believe, 3 or 4 critical flights that ought to keep flying during the wintertime. Certainly, the United flight out of Newark is important to us. We believe we can save that flight for this winter. There's a lot of work going on with United directly that the government has been involved in, the BTA has been involved in, to save that flight. We also have to make sure that Delta keeps flying out of JFK. There's been some discussion about that flight being in jeopardy. We don't believe that it's in jeopardy anymore. We believe that Delta is committed to us. We would very much like to see the U.S. Air flight out of Philadelphia continue. That is not, if we stay on the track we're on right now, that will not happen. So there's some efforts underway to work with U.S. Air and with American, who will be now be the carrier there, to save that flight. And that's not a done deal, but it is work that's underway. We also would like to see the Boston JetBlue flight continue during the wintertime. That's something that's in the works and has been discussed, but still not a done deal at all.
Why are these flights under threat?
Say that again.
Why are these flights under threat?
Lift capacity. It's the demand. I mean, we have not been able to generate the demand, and what the airline carriers look at is a steady, ongoing decline in demand and in the number of visitors coming to Bermuda, and that's all they make their decisions on. They're just making business decisions, and what we've got to do is convince them that, and we are, I believe, convincing them that in the future things are going to get better. And for them to get better, they have to be with us, or we just can't, it isn't going to happen.
Last time you gave this briefing, I think it was at the BUEI, you mentioned that in the week after that briefing, you were going to meet with a bunch of stakeholders to actually specifically talk about airlift. We never heard anything about that.
Yeah, so we have been, and that effort continues. We met with
specific about what happened.
Sure, we met with a group of about 40 stakeholders across the island to talk about airlift. I thought we had a very productive meeting during that time, and since then we've conducted a very detailed survey about what will make the difference between success and failure for airlift as it relates to Bermuda. We now have that data. We've gone to the airlines with that data, and it's now driving our efforts to try to improve airlift.
And the data shows.
And the data shows that not only tourism but international business and residents need airlift in order to be successful, and so people are willing to provide additional support during the wintertime to make sure that those flights can be healthy.
So were there any particular initiatives that came out of that?
Well, one of them is to convince government that it's important also.
And that's another thing, because subsidies have been withdrawn, haven't they?
Subsidies are only on a couple of the flights.
Were there more than that before?
There were more, and but now, we're not in a great situation financially to be providing what they call MRGs, minimum revenue guarantees. This government, I know, is looking at that to improve our capacity, but we also have to improve the demand. We have to do a better job with the demand. And this is where we're asking the private sector to help us also. We're working with them to improve how we all collaborate together to improve our relationships with the airlines. And whether it's focusing on a particular route with BTA, providing additional financial resources to market the route, or to have the private sector help us provide additional financial resources, those are the things that we're still working on.
Is that a likelihood?
We'd like to think it is. We think that what we were told by the private sector was that this is important enough to them, important enough to the international business community, important enough to residents that we ought to be focusing on it.
So, Amber, you said you were aligning our product with those best able to experience it. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so from a demographic perspective and from a geography perspective, we're trying to be a little more focused on northeastern United States, on Canada and the UK. We're not going far afield as perhaps we were at one point. And then from a demographic perspective, we're looking at the upper ends of what demographers would call the persona, or what's the other term you might use? The mosaics. Are different terms that they use for it, where we're trying to find a luxury traveler and somebody that can afford Bermuda. Bermuda is not an inexpensive destination when you compare it to other destinations that we're competing with. So you really have to be working at the upper end of the demographic and focus geographically.
I have another question.
Sure.
That is it's a broader issue of why we're here and the existence of the BTA. When you took over last year, you said we would get results within 3 months. Do we have these results, and how do you measure them?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I've been asked it a lot. When I first came to Bermuda, I said yes, we would see results in 3 months. You would see a new energy, a new excitement. You would see a new BTA, and that's exactly what's happened. We have not produced the results from a market perspective that we want yet, but I'm absolutely unequivocally convinced that we're going in the right direction, that we've built a really good organization. We have the right people. We have a highly competent staff. I remind people constantly that 90% of this staff are Bermudians. There's one work permit holder in the BTA, and you're looking at them. And so from that perspective, we have an organization that is best representing the country, is the face of the country, and we just have to stay the course, and we will get results. We just have to stay the course. We are digging ourselves out of a very big hole. I made no promises around occupancy or the number of visitors, anything like that. What I said was that at the end of the day, as we establish this organization, you will see a new energy, a new professionalism, and I think you're seeing that. I think if you go out and talk to the hospitality industry, who in many respects are our main stakeholders, our main constituents, I believe they're very satisfied with what the BTA is doing, and they believe along with us that we're going in the right direction. I want the numbers to be better. There's no question about it. They need to be better, but I'm convinced we need to stay the course and keep doing what we're doing.
Another issue is if you listen to the radio talk shows or read social media, you'll see you're taking a hit. The BTA is taking a hit for the system of bonuses.
Yeah.
Bonuses,
yeah.
Everyone's receiving the bonuses you yourself are receiving. The public doesn't appear to be very understanding of the system, especially at this economic time.
Yeah, no,
and the results. How
yeah,
do you,
no, I think
you sympathize with their concerns?
I'd like to speak.
Yeah, let Carlos chat about that a little bit. I'm glad
to you.
Yeah, I'm glad
as the CEO.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, these are tough economic times for Bermuda, but I don't believe that our salaries for our professionals here are out of line with what the market dictates. And so, yeah, people are unhappy with our performance criteria and how we compensate folks. I think some of that may be because they may not fully understand how we're incentivizing our employees, and maybe I'll let Carla take a moment, if I may, and she can chat about that.
Yes. In this regard, I'd like to say that contrary to what has been reported, Incentive pay is not bonus on top of salary. It's the foundation of BTA's compensation plan and was developed before the first employee was hired. And yes, just as the CEO has expressed, we understand this is virtually unheard of in the public sector in Bermuda. And we appreciate that without a full understanding of how our compensation plan works, people would naturally be concerned. That's only natural. So I think one of the ways to just explain this in the easiest way possible is that if you're looking to be hired by the BTA, you have to be willing to come in at the middle to lower end of what you'd likely be paid elsewhere. You'll have to meet specific performance objectives in order to bring your pay up to what your peers may make. So all of our salaries have accountability measures, including the CEOs, and the bottom line is that people are earning their compensation. They're not being paid for just showing up. Accountability is at our core, and being different doesn't make it a bad thing, which I think has been, you can see through our unqualified audit that we received from the Auditor General, as well as our DMO accreditation, which shows best practices. So happy to talk about that again further, separate to the Q2 information.
Troy, did you want to follow up?
I had one more follow-up.
Sure.
You go ahead, and I'll get on to it.
Richard Quest, you probably saw that. He interviewed the Premier, and he described this as a granny's destination. That raised a lot of eyebrows. Some people felt it was perfectly true.
Yeah, well,
and to no fault of the Premier, but that's just how it is. What do you think about that?
yeah, well, the reality is we still have some perceptions out there that don't match up with the reality that is the Bermuda destination. We believe, the BTA believes that Bermuda is a destination for adventurers, for explorers, for people who want to dig in and really experience a destination. And so this is a destination that should be attractive to all spectrum of the demographic. And whether you're a millennial or a granny, Bermuda ought to be able to be accommodating and exciting for you, no matter what it may be. So Richard Quest may be reflecting what some people still think about Bermuda, and that's where all the work is still required. We have to do a better job of projecting Bermuda's real image to the world. And we're convinced that our efforts around experiences and adventures and celebrating the real Bermuda and Bermuda's people will be the difference between success and failure for us.
All right, let's go to Charles now so we can make sure
Could I-
we get
thanks.
around the room.
With respect, can I go back to this airline?
Sure.
There was a time when I think you had mentioned that a Blue Ribbon group was going to meet with airline people. Now, we know that some of these decisions are in the hands of the schedulers, but has there been any effort on the part of BTA/government to go to the hierarchy of the airlines, like CEOs, and talk to them about Bermuda?
Yes, so the Premier has met directly with the hierarchy of United Airlines. He has been in direct conversations and negotiations with United Airlines, as has our Minister Crockwell, and those have been productive. We specifically said that the top priority for us was to save the Newark flight with United Airlines, and we believe we're on a track to save that flight for this coming winter. The next priority is U.S. Airways out of Philadelphia, and we believe we are on a track to save that flight. The reality is you don't want to bring the Premier to a meeting like that unless you can actually implement change and actually have him effectuate decisions. And so that's happened with United Airlines, and we're assuming it's going to happen with a couple more airlines between now and when we start going into the winter season.